Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for people to join, so we'll make a start in a moment or so. So welcome to this evening's Carbon Calling chat with Michael Blanche. So it's going to be a wide-ranging conversation of everything from spitting image through to fluffing. So it's fine. It'll come. So anyway, we'll wait for people to join, and then we'll make a start.
Oh, it's climbing nicely, Liz.
Are we average yet?
We're never average.
I'm just glad we can see you and hear you. The relief.
Yeah, I mean, that's such progress, isn't it?
Huge progress.
Just don't move.
Sorry.
Are you completely plugged in?
I'm all plugged in, I think, Nick, although I need 3 plugs and there's only 2 plugs available, so I might have to swap about.
I'm sure it'll be fine. Deep breaths. So yeah, we're just numbers are coming in. So we've got just over 90 people registered for this evening. So Nick and I will just have a bit of a chat amongst ourselves as we wait for people to join, and then we'll bring Michael in. So Nick, what have you been up to since the last one, which was December? So 2 months.
What a momentous night that was.
I will never be able to drink amaretto again. I associate it with mad panic now, just putting it out there.
Well, I've got 3 little bits of things I'm going to talk about in this bit, Liz. I've prepared for a change. The first one is there's been lots of stuff, this is very random, about cold water swimming and how it's good for your head and stuff. Because we haven't really got any rivers nearby, I've been trying to have a cold water shower. So I have a shower and then I try and do a cold shower. And it's very noisy. Actually, it makes you feel amazing afterwards. So that's my challenge, to see if you can have a cold water.
It's the curse. It's got her now. So while we wait,
I think she's just pretending.
No, this is occasionally Cumbrian
She's back.
Wi-Fi.
She's back.
The next thing we've been doing is, so we've bought checkers.
Let's pretend it never happened.
You went a bit Dalek-y, but carry on.
Am I back? Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Internet. So we bought 3 Czechoslovakian personnel carriers that we're going to make quite quickly, as in when we can all do stuff again in the middle of April, into glamping things. So at the minute, Renault is quite busy anyway, but making composting loos and all that kind of stuff. So that's quite exciting, a little bit scary. But they've got king size beds, so that's the most important thing, and a log burner. And then the other thing is, I've been having a little bit of a midlife crisis in that we're looking at doing some agroforestry. But if you plant an apple tree, it takes ages before you get any fruit off it. So my only advice to anyone listening is, if you're going to plant a tree, just crack on. Because I just wish we planted more when we got here. Because I'm thinking, I'm 45 now. I've got to wait probably till I'm 50 something before we get anything back of these bloody trees. Sorry, swearing. So that's my thing. And then this lady said about rootstocks, and I'm learning about grafting apples. Do you know anything about grafting apples? Oh,
not grafting apples. No.
Not grafting apple trees.
No.
Well, it's
only that you can do it.
It's just a whole new thing to learn. Oh, it's really easy. I'm hoping
might have missed the window though. That's the challenge.
So
I know. So
can I just clarify how long it is until you get the apples?
Well, I think it varies. Someone will probably just come in now, but I think we'd probably plant trees that are 2 years old, and then you'd be looking at like 3 or 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
So you get some fruit. If you're trying to sell it at a level, the yield will be down for a bit, won't it?
Yeah.
You can buy them from Tesco's and
Anyway, But also the other big news for you is you've changed jobs.
Yeah, I've in the middle of a pandemic given up a quite well-paid full-time job. Yeah, I've stopped working at HDB after 3.5 years. Last week, they've taken the car back, the printer and all that kind of stuff. A bit sad. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing more stuff here, but I am going to be doing a little bit of work for them on the side, but obviously not fully employed. But yeah, so it's quite exciting. And I had some great mates there, and I'll miss the crack and the gossip. But yeah, new pastures.
So what is your position within the Canner Farm business? Are you head of what?
Head of ideas.
This is like Google. Yeah, come on.
I'm head of ideas.
Can't lift anything. She's not a head of movement.
No, but I'm not physically. I think I've got weak, so I'm not very
head of easy jobs.
Head of easy jobs, and so the money side is all my thing. The eggs, the chickens, keeping Reno straight, and like every day I say to him, or every night I actually say to him, we have a meeting in the shower and I say, right, what are you going to do tomorrow? And that's how we roll. And then feeding people, and yeah. So I do quite a lot of farm work, but I'm not as, Liz will be very handy at like rolling bales over, whereas I'm just not that strong, quite weak.
What do you want to push forward on the farm?
You're asking us questions.
Sorry,
this is not how it
I'm
works.
interested.
But I wanted meat sales, egg sales, chicken sales, glamping, agroforestry, as well as keeping like the cows and the sheep going as well. So it's quite a lot. But we're just one more thing. We're going to advertise for an intern.
It's very Google.
So we're going to hopefully get someone here. So if anyone wants to be an intern and learn about fencing and, you know, all the whole rotational stuff, just get in touch.
Does an intern not get paid?
We'll pay them if they're you know.
It may be in eggs.
Eggs and bacon. Bacon's amazing. Anyway, that was far too long, Liz. Crack on.
Well, yeah, I haven't really. What have I done since December? I haven't really been anywhere. My excitement is taking animals to the abattoir. That's about as good as it gets at the minute. That's the only time I ever leave.
You're very busy.
You've got your keep fit.
Yeah, I started with my other sisters. We were on Instagram, 3 Daughters Croft Farm, and I'm trying to do some farm fitness videos. It does depend slightly on my mood in the morning. So if I've eaten, I'm normally better. We're in a happier mood. But yes, so that's entertaining us every now and again.
Digestion.
True. I also get low blood sugar and very rage filled though, so pros and cons. And
more than normal.
Yeah, a little bit. And we start lambing in a week. So we've got some sheep to lamb. So that'll keep me out of trouble for a bit.
So you in that pre-lambing deathly stage, or
everything that looks slightly at me funny, I'm convinced it's about to die. Yes, that phase. But it's that sort of, once you get past that and everything, there's a few lambs arrive and then all the right sort of size, everything gets a bit easy, doesn't it? And then you just got to do it. So yeah, and the grass is growing and the days are warm, so it's good.
What's your grass growing at?
It'd be about 15 at the minute, so nothing. But that on a particular, we've got some lighter land and it's growing quite well on that. We've got some heavy clay land and it's not shifting at all. So we'll see. But it'll get there. It now just need. Do you mean the only way to get it dry, the land dry, is to get some grass growing? So it'll just take a bit longer. Okay, we've done a wide-ranging conversation already. So, Michael, good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for working with us for a second time. I know there were some reservations, particularly after my fighting talk via Twitter. So again, I apologise if that was misconstrued.
What?
We were getting ready to rumble on Twitter.
Oh yes.
And that isn't our intention.
Yes,
our intention is
that was
have
quite
a funny
aggressive,
conversation.
to be fair.
I would go funny, but it's misunderstood sometimes. So what we're going to do, I think the plan is to go sort of talk a bit more about your background. Last time we got to you owning sheep, so we're going to do a bit on your and I'm particularly interested in the first generation farming bit. Then we're going to do and then some chat about the podcasts and and part of this is having an honest conversation in terms of getting change on farm. So we've all sort of experienced different practices that farmers are interested in, and so how do we get engagement? Really, that's another area I'm interested in. As ever, if anybody wants to ask questions, and some of you have already started to put things in chat, so please use the chat or the Q&A question, the box, sorry. We're not joined by our friendly leprechaun Joseph this evening. He's actually got some proper work to do. So it will be myself and Nick monitoring those questions. So yeah, please feel free to go through. I'll come back to that sheep slave. Right, so Nick, do you want to start with some questions for Michael?
Yes. So did we I haven't dared listen to the one we did before because did we talk about your Nuffield? We did. Did we cover it? Liz?
Yes. Did we cover it? Yeah.
Well, it was that bit was a wee bit like childbirth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
I'm just thinking because all I was thinking was, so you did your Nuffield.
Yeah, not in great detail, I think.
But my main question, I didn't want to dwell on it too much because we've got loads of other stuff to talk about. But I was just going to ask, what do you think your Nuffield did to you?
It broke me and then built me up again. So, I tell you, I don't know. I think maybe there's Nuffield scholars listening just now. I always had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about Nuffield, but until I got one, so that changed then. But I had incredible. What's the complex when you feel you're not worthy?
Imposter
syndrome.
Yeah.
Serious imposter syndrome. So we stood up in our first meeting and we got all together with the Australians and the French and the New Zealanders and even my group in the UK. There were some really sharp operators and you had to stand up and tell everyone what you did. And there was an Australian guy there saying, well, I've got a cattle station in Queensland and I've got 50,000 head of cattle.
Did he also smoke 60 a day? Just checking.
He did. He had the deepest voice ever, and and so it went on and on and on. And so I had 650 sheep, and no owned land at all. So but that so that is a real challenge. And then it's sort of a process, and it's a very intense process, especially when you're all together. And so you start off getting incredibly insecure about how crap you are, and then you actually realize that you've got actually some good traits, and then you actually think, well, actually that's actually good because these guys are really switched on, but I can do this, and maybe so it actually opens your eyes to something that you can do rather than what you can't. So I think it was an incredibly intense experience, and it wasn't all good. I'm still lucky to have a wife, and it was, but in the end, it was a positive experience, net positive. So, but I went totally up my own backside. Seriously.
What, when you'd done it?
No, during it, and so when I went away. You become quite really very selfish, and I was absolutely obsessed with this thing, and I went away to New Zealand and Australia for 6 weeks, and just was all in on it, and that is just so intense, but that sometimes that you need that sort of kind of pressure to produce something decent. I didn't produce anything decent, but I did actually have a sort of my brain vomited, I think, was it 40,000 words onto a page or 60,000 words onto a page, and did a report which some people read.
So when you came back, was it quite hard? When you came back home, was coming back home quite hard?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I think it was. There was a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I was just a bit of an arse. I went in quite a nice guy, and then I was during the process and maybe a little bit afterwards I wasn't. So I was incredibly selfish and up my own arse, and but hey, I had a good time, so who cares?
But also I think with that,
that's a joke.
But with Nuffiel's, you have to be. Do you mean you have to become obsessive about it, or you might never?
Yeah, and I know other people that were obsessive and left their family behind. They were present, but they weren't. They weren't there. And we have 4 kids, so yeah, it wasn't ideal really. But if I hadn't had Nuffield, I don't know where it'd be. It was a real game changer as far as I was concerned.
I remember us talking about your top tips, and that's where we got to in terms of those sort of your key points from your Nuffield. I remember that we did cover that last time, and because a lot of it came.
What were they?
I can't remember. I knew you were about to ask me that.
I remember it was
that's Nick's area.
Nick's been swapping.
No, I remember I saw it today. Debt is good, and it's good to struggle. But I, in comparison to Renault, I think my life has been quite hard. He or Camp gets things quite easy, but then sometimes I think the struggle is a bit boring. Like he can ski and swim, and I was just like milking cows.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the struggle sometimes is just a bit hard work. But
yeah,
I guess it's just luck, isn't it? If you're
taught
to ski.
Yeah, because I do. That's another thing I feel guilty about, is because we've struggled. Our kids, although they've done okay in some respects, because, well, that's another story, but I did pay some money for their education. But other than that, they've hardly been on holiday. And, they actually used to see going to Tesco as the day out. That was a treat.
This is perfect lockdown material then.
Oh,
take them to an abattoir next time.
They're well trained, yeah. So yeah.
But you it was the climbing the farming ladder, and it's worked because you have clambered up that ladder.
Yeah. I do, and I actually take pleasure in seeing other new entrants, especially in social media. You don't know the full background, of course, but I think a lot of new entrants have gone far further than I have, and are really quite young. I had a scanner, Cammy Wilson. Sorry, Daniel. My scanner, normal scanner, is on here. So, but Cammy Wilson came up because Daniel couldn't get over from New Zealand. And Cammy was a full-time policeman until very recently. He's a YouTuber, the Sheep Game, look it up. He has a shearing round and a scanning round. And this guy has now got 1,000 views, So, no, he's got 600 views on 1,000 acres, which, it's would be a management challenge. But he's only 29. So, people like that, and he's got property and things like that. So I do admire people that I think I could have got further if we hadn't maybe taken so much money out of the business, but I'm very happy where I am. Yeah. Yeah, honest.
But you mentioned the other day that you've gone into partnership with some cattle. So your first love of sheep has moved a little.
It's become very evident to me that having an incredibly sheep-heavy system is not sustainable, definitely not regenerative. So I need some balance. I definitely need some balance, and I need really to get closer to clean grazing. And I'm very lucky. I'm really lucky in that I moved next to a chap who's just a great guy, and his strengths are very different to mine, and I think we work well together, and we don't fall out yet. So I mean, it's just a small project, but we have plans. You know, we've got quite a lot of green hill, Persia hill, to share between us, and so we've been cell grazing these. I mean, there's only been 24 of them, but you know, we've cell grazed the hill, so we've used 8 bales of silage all winter, and we fed them, because they're heifers. We have fed them some concentrate, but not a huge amount, and they've done fantastically well. But they're from Charlie Walker at Barnside, so you know, they're bound to be good. So yeah, no, I'm quite excited about that.
So this will be the first season they're on your grass, is it? So you've got them over the winter?
No, they bulled on my grass. They
Okay.
came to me, bulled them. I get them for the summer. Darren gets them for the winter, which is far harder work. And you know, we'll work it out when the numbers get higher. I think obviously we'll have to use more silage, but no, I'm quite excited about that. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who started off sheep heavy and have got similar sort of farm mix to me, where I've got 250 acres of decent stuff or semi-decent stuff and 250 acres of green hill. And that's quite a common, well, is it a common? Certainly in the Ochils, you know, that's our hill range. That's quite a common mix. So so there's definitely opportunity there where we weren't using the hill I mean, it was our wintering shed for our sheep, but certainly I don't think Darren was using the hill. So it's kind of for free, not quite, but certainly adding to things.
So I suppose it's dealing with that. So it's the wind. I mean, we love cattle, don't we? But we just don't love putting them in a shed for 5-6 months. So it's getting over that wintering, or some of the queries about wintering.
And it's the cost, isn't it? It's that's just the killer. And I'm so impressed with these cattle because, you know, I'm almost worried they're too fat, you know. But that's their superpower, is some of the stuff they've been on has been pretty mediocre stuff, you know. But that's their superpower, just doing well off of crap. And if it saves, you know, if you have a very cheap winter, that's tremendous. That really is exciting.
So do you think the cow numbers will creep up a bit?
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, it's pathetic, really. I've only got 12, so because it's half, you know. And that I'm hoping to double numbers this coming summer. So, and then someone told me, if you're a tenant and you don't have tenant on a upland sheep and beef farm, if you don't have suckler cows, you're an idiot, because the tax advantages in terms of the herd basis and things like that, and you've got to actually live in something a little bit better than a caravan after you retire, which is something I'm worried about. You know, you should have some suckler cows to sell at the end of the day. So that was my thoughts.
Nick does have a nice Rusky if you want to go and live in a caravan. It's got a king size bed and a log burner. She was talking about it earlier.
Yeah, it's got a king size bed, I hear. Yeah.
There's a question from Andrew, which is, how much is Charlie paying you for the plug?
He pays me in love. Man love.
Even better.
I think that's worth. So the QMS, your relationship with QMS, you started full time there. I've been stalking you today in 2014 with a very fancy job title. With a very fancy job title.
Yeah, I really complained hard to the chief executive it's such a noncy job title. I mean, you're dealing with hardcore, down-to-earth farmers, and you're a knowledge transfer specialist, or was it knowledge exchange specialist?
I think there was
Knowledge
some
transfer specialist.
strategic. There was
Oh,
the
God.
word strategic in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm.
I started off part-time trying to plug EBVs. That was a part-time thing. I was still part-time in 2014. So it was only 3 days a week.
And did you enjoy that?
I loved it. There was this sweet spot where there was me, and these names might not, they probably won't ring a bell to very many people, but there's me, Robert Gilchrist, Johnny Mackey, and Emily Grant. And we just laughed. I mean, we took our jobs very seriously, but we just laughed. Oh, it's so fun. And you know, when you've got a good group of people, and you're really energized by what you're doing, but also you are just laughing, and it's just awesome. So we all came from the Perthshire area and live and work down in Edinburgh. So we would have these long car journeys down, and it was just really funny. It's really funny. Very inappropriate sometimes, but it was funny.
Because we
I don't know. I might not need to know that.
No, I think that could. I wouldn't go there, Liz.
Yeah.
It's too early in the day. So as because we were talking yesterday how the QMS grazing discussion groups is something that we all look at rather enviously.
Yeah. I think. Well, I'll be honest. I think most of that was. Yeah, we had a variation in successive group, and a lot of that was down to the buy-in and the determination from the host farmers. So there's a host farmer for each one, and there's 6. And yeah, I mean, we had the likes of Alec Brewster in Perthshire, and there's some guy down in the Borders, I can't remember his name, Jim Logan. They were awesome. They were absolutely awesome. And there was the Urquharts up in Aberdeenshire, and they were great. They were just getting started, and so it was really good. There was one chap that just actually said, "Look, I'm not interested in this." So I didn't really enthuse everyone, but it's really interesting groups, I find, because there's personalities in that group, and if you're not careful, you absolutely lose the possibilities that are there in the room. But if you let them loose, they build the group, and it's just amazing. And there's a buzz, and you know, it's really exciting, and you know, everyone's sort of kind of on the same page, but not totally. So there's like good arguments and stuff, and then there's sort of, you know, that then takes on a life of its own, and it goes, and it's, yeah. But we were really lucky with some of those hosts, and you know, they really wanted to make change, and that was, so when someone wants to make change, it's really easy, and when someone doesn't, it's really hard. It's really hard.
Really hard. So someone like Alec Brewster, I can see he's on the call.
All right.
I think is that the same one, Liz? Is that the right Alex Brewster?
I would think so. I was just getting the list up.
Is he really, really good looking?
I can't see it.
If it is, it's not him.
Can you please not offend our attendees? Thanks.
But so was everyone? Some of the groups were rotationally grazing at that, or were they all new to it?
No, some of them. There were a couple of guys that were doing it, like Graham Lofthouse, I think, was doing it, and I think Jim was actually trying it, and Michael Shannon, who is the godfather of rotational grazing in Scotland, he was definitely doing it, because, you know, you could hear him from Lanarkshire going on about it. And and there were one or two others. I think Beanie, like Alec Brewster, had tried bits and pieces. So, but I do generally think, yeah, they're going to get mad at me saying, "Oh, I've done it for 5 years before that," you know. But I think there was a little bit going on, but I felt we timed it perfectly. And this is Johnny Mackey's initiative, I suppose, that he saw that we needed to do something, and of course I'd come back. I'd written my report in 2011, and 2014 I'd tried it and stuff, made a lot of mistakes, which is always a good thing when you're giving people advice. And so yeah, I just it was a perfect, I think it was kind of a perfect storm there. But you know, do many people rotationally graze in Scotland? I suppose we do. I mean, we talk about it a lot, that's for sure. So
do you think it's go on, Liz?
No, I was just interested in, were you involved in the recruitment of those hosts, or was it just a bit
me
of...
and Emily went around, and well, Emily hadn't started, wasn't it? No, we went, me and Emily went we chose the ReGenAg Chat. But yeah, no, well, basically asked my friends. And
excellent,
they said,
bit of nepotism.
No, I didn't. I knew Jim would be good, and I knew Alec would be good, and then I got good recommendations from other people, and and everyone worked differently, but I was proud of each one, definitely. Yeah.
And how often did you how much contact was there?
I suppose it's before WhatsApp groups, kind of. So it was really, there was 4 meetings a year, and obviously we tried to do notes. We weren't very good at that. But I think, weirdly, I think I tell you, the other thing that we're really lucky with is that we had budget to take people over that people hadn't heard before, you know. So we had, Liz is gone.
She's gone.
Is she that bored? Or maybe she's intimidated.
Maybe of the Scottish grazing god.
No, so there was only 4 meetings, but we had really great speakers over. You know, so we had there's a chap, John Bailey, who was very Marmite. I love John Bailey, and he was an Irishman who lived most of his life in France, and just he would turn up in a t-shirt with, you know, coffee spilt down it and jeans and some sandals, and just, but he was an absolute genius. He was way ahead of his time, and I learned so much from him. So he was really good. And then we had Trevor Cook, of course, who was a real big deal. He was a real big deal. So people like that came over, and it was, and and of course there was the homegrown types like Ridley Jones and things like that. You know, it was good. It was really good.
Because I can remember you doing the body condition scoring thing with Trevor Cook. Do you remember doing that with your hands?
Yes, I remember.
Which, it's just, and that amazing QMS long calendar.
Yes,
the golden
timeline.
Golden 20 days.
That was Trevor, of course. Yeah. And Emily did the details, which I wasn't very good at. But that was really good.
So do you think, what do you think about the future? So if you, is it set up now that are these groups carrying on?
I think probably quite rightly, I think QMS are going back to the beginning. So the people that weren't in the original sort of wave, if you like, they want to go back and catch people that are thinking, well, actually now I'm thinking, you know, it looks kind of interesting. I'd like to know more. So they're going back to the beginning and doing some benchmarking that involves carbon and stuff like that. And also doing, I wonder if the emphasis is going to reduce on grazing. But and there were and they're individual, so they're private groups. The North and South Grays Plus groups were groups that Emily carried on after I left. So and they've gone private. So they're, Emily's dealing with them. So, but
So
it's really easy to get. If you go to a dairy grazing group, and I know this is a regenerative agriculture chat, but if you go to a New Zealand style dairy grazing group, it blows your mind. Unbelievably blows your mind, because everything they've got. Oh, nice of you to join us, Liz.
Thanks.
But they have everything is measured. They've got meeting notes that thick on the person they're meeting, all their KPIs, all the grass growth, all that sort of stuff. It's really in depth, and the grazing thing is a proper skill, and I feel that maybe I go to a lot of people that are rotationally grazing, but I wonder, to some degree, in the beef and sheep thing, I still think we need to get more professional at it. Obviously the people that are listening that are rotationally grazing don't have to, because they're way ahead. But I do go to rotationally grazed farms that, it's, to quote Shakespeare, it's full of sound and fury, but signifies nothing. They're rotationally grazing, but I'm not sure. There are some benefits, but I think they could go another step forward.
In terms of, and I suppose the challenge, so if you, from a consult, as Adrina, I suppose, as I attempt to be a consultant, which is the challenge you've got is that the data needed, do you mean it's a lot of paperwork and nagging, and do you mean it's not a comfortable place to be in, is it, in terms of getting some of that information? So it is, where does that switch happen, which is that actually the information is, there's a drive to get it to improve business?
It's a really good question, Liz. And
I'm not even sure it was a question, so well done if you did pick a question out of that.
No, where do you get the drive to move to the next level? Is that what the
yeah, let's pretend that's what I asked. But I think, it is that shift from,
it's because you're comfortable, you think you've got, well, I'm rotationally grazing, so I've got to be, and you see to a degree that you're saving money. But I listened to this great podcast where the chat was going on. You don't know, the danger is that you don't know what you don't know. And as soon as you know what you don't know, that's when it clicks and you've got to do something about it. But if you don't know what you don't know, you're in a comfort zone that you're never going to get out of until you actually speak to more people, get someone totally out with your little comfort zone, and actually think, I should be knowing more than this.
I suppose it comes back to that element of epiphany, doesn't it, which I always occasionally bang on about, which is a lot of the time people have to be out of their comfort zone. They're normally away from their farm, they're with a group of supported people. There's a sequence of things that happen that get that person to probably move on, and enough field would be examples, or visits you do because of enough field.
Yeah, that's a very good example, Liz.
In reality, the last year we haven't really been anywhere, or so had the opportunity to sort of push information on.
Isn't it strange how things have changed so quickly? And I think that is driven by social media. I remember I only joined Twitter in 2011, and I suppose, and more and more people have joined, and I suppose that I think momentum can grow, and regenerative agriculture is one of those where momentum is grown by people who are socializing online and seeing what other people are doing, and you get lots of enthusiastic people in one place. So I don't necessarily, there's dangers to that, because you only get a proportion of the story, but there's also real benefits, isn't there?
So as you say, so WhatsApp group, Twitter, do you mean there's a huge amount, there is a support network, there's not just, you don't have to be sitting next to them anymore.
Yeah, but the WhatsApp group, you choose who you want to be with, don't you? And the private messaging groups, you choose who you want to be with, which improves your current situation and sort of refines it. But the big leaps are from people that you don't know and probably thought you couldn't learn anything from, and things like that, you know, in totally different sectors. For example, I always think, I went to, in my Nuffield, there was 5 grass-based pasture-based dairy farmers who were unbelievable, totally different characters, you know, from one extreme to the other. Was one guy who would measure twice a week, and the other guy would never measure but did it by eye, and had this sort of real, he was art and the other guy was science and everything in between. And but I got so much from them. I think the pasture-based dairy industry is where I've learned more things and challenged more things on my farm than just sheep and beef farms, I would say, you know.
And so part of it is exposing yourself. That's a whole different thing. Sorry,
Yes.
in terms of
don't go to the court case, Liz.
It's widening that network, isn't it? It's widening the view of people, or the different viewpoints you're getting. And some of it is that actually we're narrowing down the echo chamber, so we speak to people that agree with us.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really comfortable, that, isn't it? You know, it's really, I find it exhausting speaking to people that don't agree with me. So but it's kind of has to be done. It's like having a consultant come over. I've had Trevor and I've had James Daniel come over to the farm, and James especially was incredibly uncomfortable. You know, you just see, and actually just showing anyone around the farm, I think, oh my God, I haven't cleared that bit up. And you know, things like you see your farm and how other people see it. So it's so healthy to do, but it's incredibly uncomfortable. But it's a weird thing, and I haven't really thought about having a plan in place for discomfort. Maybe I should.
December last year. I know, but I think that, and part of it is actually the challenge sometimes I find is that, as I'm generally a paid person going to advise a farmer, that they are paying a bill, aren't they? So actually to make them really uncomfortable is not generally the first objective, but actually we have a role in that challenging. I suppose we challenge, don't we? Rather than.
Yeah, and I think you can, I think, who was Andre van Barneveld, who I love, absolutely love, but he is a bastard. he will come on and he'll say stuff that is, he said, Michael, you're too nice to be a consultant, and and he said, you've got to be a bastard. And so, you know, he would, some guys just won't have him back on farm, you know. And I think he's aware that you maybe could push it too far, but I think it's got to be a positive experience. You've got to, as a consultant, because I've been a consultant as well. So I worked for SEC for 5 or so years, and I've done it on my own for 15. But it's a real fine balance. You've got to push them, but you can't say, yes, John, no, John, 3 bags full, John. You know, you've got to, and you can do that with humor and tease them a wee bit, which I love doing. But it's a real fine balance. It is, and you've got to judge a person. Some people just won't take it very well. I remember meeting a chap who 15 years prior to me visiting talked about a beef specialist from SAC coming to see him, and he was still visibly livid. You know, he was just, the beef specialist had suggested that his breed of cow was daft. Yeah, I don't even think he said daft. I think he said it was maybe maybe you should consider another. But he was still livid. Oh, he was sore. So you got to judge the person, eh?
And this is a slight side journey, but I was listening to a podcast the other day about mental health
Pastor Pod?
therapy.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
No, I
Sorry?
listened to them on loop most of the day.
Yes. Yeah, you're
but
one
this,
especially.
It was about sort of the sort of mental health therapy, and actually what they found is it doesn't really matter about which therapy you choose. It's the connection
Right.
between the patient and the therapist that's the important thing. And so
Yeah.
actually how long if you want a good therapist, you've got to try them out, because it's the relationship that's
Yes.
important. And I think that we sometimes miss that on a pharma consultant advisor level.
Yes. Yeah. Because
so I think it's all about relationships, isn't it? And you there's a thing that you don't buy something off someone that you don't really like, or it's all about people.
I buy
isn't it?
plenty of stuff off people I don't like.
Do you?
No, no, that's actually quite true, Nick, I think. But yeah, that was a joke.
And sorry, Nick.
No, go on.
No, I just thought we have been skirting around the edge of regen. We've mentioned it a few times, and there's a few questions, although some of them disappeared when I disappeared too. But there was a question about, I suppose it isn't quite what you said, but in terms of, can farmers be regenerative with just sheep? But that isn't your point. Your point is that for your farming system, you think cattle are important. So I suppose it's more of a debate about that mixed grazing approach and why it is beneficial.
I think, I mean, it's a huge subject, regenerative farming, isn't it? And I'm kind of nervous because I suggested we didn't do this because I had a little bit of, my feelings were hurt a couple of weeks ago by a regenerative farmer saying that, I had asked a daft question or something. And it's actually quite it's an emotional thing. And I know we've got some passionate regenerative guys on the thing. But if I was being flippant, if you say you're a regenerative farmer, that's enough, isn't it? So, but I would suggest agroecologically, you've got to have a mixture of species. I think it's probably as important as plant diversity. In fact, more important than plant diversity is, my feelings are, and I wouldn't call myself a regenerative farmer, but I've been organic forever. I've used 2 bags of nitrogen in my first year of farming, and then no chemical fertilizer thereafter. My feelings are that, as long as you don't put bad stuff on your land, and I mean, I have my own definition of that, and you rotationally graze and you keep your pH right. I mean, I'm a very broad brush, bright color guy. I'm not a fine artist. As long as it's simple, and you can get 85% of the main things very easily. And so by bad, I include bad stuff as I'm trying to breed wool shedding sheep. I've been doing that for a good 15 years. So I don't have to put fly stripes, pyrethroids on them. And that would help my dung beetles. And I really would love sheep that are worm resistant, that I didn't have to worm, or I have a clean grazing system. So again, that helps the ecology of the soil and the little grobies that live in it. So that's why I want to go. I think that would really, the clean grazing system would really help, the benefits, the ecological benefits. So that's why we're introducing cattle, definitely, because certainly on our ground, I think, yeah, it's a slippery slope when you're just sheep after sheep after sheep. But I try my best to sort of get lambs away after, at weaning, and graze hogs, and it's playing at it. You want to do it properly. So
but Michael,
hence the
you say you're not you wouldn't call yourself regenerative.
No.
But why?
I think, like a lot of people I know, you see, look, everything I'm going to say is said with love, okay? I want you to understand this, right? Some of my best friends are regenerative farmers, you know, that sort of thing. But I think from a personal, what was the question, Nick? Sorry.
Why don't you see yourself as regenerative?
Oh, right, yes, okay. So I suppose I fall at the last hurdle, I think, because I believe in reductive science, and and I suppose the regenerative grazing thing is a real bugbear of mine, because I'm from a sheep background. If I had all cows, I think it would be perfect. It would be great, and it has real. I'm sure it has real benefits, and I absolutely love speaking to Robert and Andrew Brewster. I think they were on this before, and you just come away pumped with. They've got so many ideas, and they are proper regenerative farmers. But they started with a pretty rundown, in terms of soil, rundown soil structure, an ex-arable farm. So they had incentive there to increase organic matter. I don't have that. I've taken 4 soil tests to test for organic matter recently, and my best one was 10.6% organic matter. Gabe Brown has 5,000 acres. He's got 10 acres, his best 10 acres is 11.1%. So, and my mate Vince has got 11.6%. Now, Vince hasn't written a book about it, but I appreciate it's the journey from 1.7% for Gabe to get to 11.1, but we haven't got that journey to make, So my perspective, first of all, is from a personal point of view, and I'm not arable either. So if I was arable, I'd definitely, think more far more seriously about it. But I would definitely, the regenerative grazing aspect is choosing biomass over energy. So, you can have lots and lots of stuff there, most of which is senesced. I prefer to think that my sheep will do better on vegetative green stuff, maybe not as much, maybe with roots that aren't quite as deep, but those roots are growing. These plants are active. The pastures are, it's exciting in there. All the plants are excited. They've not sort of senesced and are sort of sitting back, not doing very much. So that is a big thing. That's a big thing for me, and I really struggle to get over it. And the other thing is, in terms of, we've done lots in that group, we did lots of financial analysis, we did costs of production, we did in quite a lot of depth. And what was apparent from that is there's certain profit drivers for beef and sheep farms like we've got in Scotland. And those profit drivers, above all else, would be, I suggest, would be kilograms of live weight produced per hectare. In fact, that was part of our mission statement, is to increase kilograms of live weight per hectare through grazed grass. So better utilization of grass. So this is just a personal thing, okay? So I'm not expecting everyone to agree. And I love what the true regenerative guys are doing, because it seems really exciting. But for me, it's not. My drivers are to live in something better than a caravan at retirement. So I need to generate income. I need to build a business. I need to actually create wealth. And so what I've got to look at is how, in financial terms, I've got the best opportunity of doing that. And it's not reducing stocking rate, because I have no tractor. I've up until this year, I haven't fed concentrate for, well, we had a bad go of it in 2018, but normally I'd have a pre-lambing rotation on grass alone, and we're all good. So no fertilizers apart from lime really, and maybe some rock fertilizer. So, you know, costs are really low apart from rent, and rent is huge. So I've got to get as much out of a hectare as I can without spending anything else. And so really it's just that last hurdle. You know, I've tried diverse swards as well. I don't think, you know, in my self-examination, I would say that I've probably failed at diverse swards because I overgraze, I have too short rotations, and, you know, I know that's what I'm doing wrong, but what do I want? Do I want diverse swards? I mean, I do have diverse swards because I've got lots of buttercup and thistles and dandelions and stuff. So, you know, that makes up for it. But in terms of chicory, I'm really good at killing chicory because it probably needs a 40-day rotation, doesn't it? And yeah, I think what is the cost of maintaining those diverse swards in terms of production? And maybe that's something I might get my head around, but I'm still on that journey. So yeah, I just I don't know. I've just seen good results from not putting bad stuff on, rotationally grazing, and trying to keep pH right. And we did a worm count. I know this isn't a particularly accurate KPI, but we did a worm count when we went in 2012. We did it, and there's around about 5 per spade cube, you know. And I did it in 2018 again. I think was that the last year of the World Worm Week, and the average was 25, with the top being 44. So and in the field.
So before 2000, when you came there, how was that farmed?
I mean, they were perceived, certainly. Well, look, in conventional terms, they were good farmers. Yeah, but I remember going around with John Bailey, and he was saying, you know, these guys were the better farmers than me for a start off, but it was chemically based, you know. And there's lots of compound, and there's actually quite a lot of stuff going on, and some of it was, you know, cheap stuff. So and I remember going around with John Bailey, and we were digging pits and doing that. And there's a great guy, great New Zealand soil scientist called Graham Shepherd, who he's done a book called Visual Soil Assessment, and I actually did visual soil assessments for most of the fields. That takes 40 minutes, but yeah, when John was he really worshipped Graham. But anyway, we went round, we dug pits, and he said, your soil's dead, you know. So that was really...
Yeah, so as in defense of regen, and I think the trouble is it's become a bit of a thing now, and there's these extremes of people making potions, and
I made potions too. I've done compost teas and stuff. It's great.
Oh, well, you're there.
Tastes amazing.
So the way you've gone organic, you stopped putting the nasty stuff on. Mm-hmm. Although you don't call yourself regenerative, I would call you part on that stretch. So that'll probably annoy you. But
I think no, not at all. I think would I be an agroecologist?
If you want to be. There's a really interesting point from Tim. So who's the host of the Carbon Calling, when we can get there. The idea that actually it's about thinking of it like regenerating an ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So soil health is part of it. So structure of vegetation, provision for pollinators, water quality, trees, shrubs, and diverse browsing. So I think it's more than tall grass grazing, which is my sort of epiphany moment that's happened last year. But agroecology is another. Which I mean, it's another term to describe what you're achieving on your farm.
Yeah, but I don't think the true regenerative farmers would call me a regenerative farmer, because have you heard? I mean, some people are really, you know, it's a personality driven movement, isn't it? And you know, there's one or two of the big proponents of regenerative farming that are really rude about shortgrass grazing, which I get annoyed at. Like Nicole Masters is really rude about it.
Let it go.
And Christine Jones is really rude about ryegrass. And I know there's it really hurts my feelings, because you know ryegrass is my best friend.
But when before you got into rotational stuff, what you were set stocked then before?
Yeah.
So, and what did you think of rotational grazing? Like when you were set stocked, what was your thoughts on rotational stuff? Do you see that kind of step?
Okay, I see where you're getting. Yeah, you've got to try and trick me, Nick, too. So rotational grazing, I only knew Michael Shannon. That's the only person I knew that was doing it. You know, again, I suppose my world was smaller. But I thought it was interesting. But yeah, I think I know what you're saying to me, but I think the whole beauty for me in farming is being an individual, or like a lone wolf, a maverick, if you like. And I don't like groupthink. And I do feel, you know, we've got identity politics. And this is again said with love, but I can see regenerative farming getting taken over by the loud, who see it as kind of identity agriculture. So whereas I think and maybe this is actually a bad thing, maybe it's good to have an identity, but before I always thought every farmer was a farmer, and they did different stuff on their farms, you know, and they believed in certain things, and they aimed for different goals. But you tell me, Nick, do you think, I don't know, what regenerative farming is different, isn't it?
Well, I just, so this morning on my way to the supermarket, I listened to your thing with Neil McGowan, your pasture pod, which we'll come on to. And he said that he showed a kiwi around a fort or something on his farm.
Yeah.
Do you remember that bit?
Yes. Yeah,
and this Nuffield kiwi girl said, in agriculture, and they're obviously looking at something from years and years ago, in agriculture, we think of like this season's lambs or this calving or how that, you know, what silage we're going to grow this time. And she said, you know, we should maybe think longer. So like in the next 10 years. And how I see it is, I kind of see it as a longer thing. So, which goes back to planting trees, but it's and to get very deep, you've only got to watch David Attenborough to think like we're screwing everything up. I'm spitting, I'm so excited. We're screwing everything up, and we've as farmers we've got, and you are doing it already, so don't fight it. We've got the opportunity to put things right. So when the rivers are full of nitrates, we can be the answer to that rather than fight it. The way I see the good bits of regen is farmers need to take ownership of it rather than big business. So
you're good, yeah.
No, but that's where I am with it. It's a bit kind of like we've got to do something, and if we carry on like we are, like, you know.
Yeah, that you see, therein lies a difficulty, isn't it? And I totally agree that we're going to have to change. And it's really interesting how regenerative agriculture is really booming. Or it seems, maybe it's not, but it seems, certainly the narrative seems to be booming. And I wonder, it's probably been accelerated by the pressure. It's felt the last 18 months or so with all the narrative around emissions and things like that. It's been incredible pressure on the industries, particularly the livestock industry. And I wonder, from that pressure, has it you know, effectively exploded in terms of a thought process and a movement. But I do think there's a difficulty there in that I always thought of, you know, I used to ride a motorbike, not very fast, and I pretended to be a motorcyclist, but you always used to wave at every motorcyclist. You know, there was a brother and a sisterhood, you know, apart from BMW riders. But but I always feel that, probably innocently, I always think that of farmers. So we are farmers, we can connect over continents because we have a mutual interest. The difficulty we have here is that by its nature, regenerative farming is saying what we've done before, and I'm not saying you don't have a point, what we've done before is bad and we shouldn't be doing it. And that is the difficulty, in that some really good operators and some really switched on cookies and some people that I admire are still in that space. And that changes farming from being someone that you wave at to the BMW drivers, the riders. And you know, why are you raising your eyes like that, Nick? But there's a difficulty in by its nature, you've got to differentiate yourselves. That there is a difficulty there. I'm not saying it's actually not. It's probably, we've got to get away from that, definitely. But that's going to cause friction. You can see it coming, and just.
I think it's
fascinating to watch. Just, you know, from my, you know, as an observer, I think it's fascinating. But it's, yeah. Sorry, next, Liz.
No, I'm just thinking, because it's just worth pointing out that the reason why Nick, myself, Paul, or Renaud and Tim sort of started the carbon calling was this uncomfortable position between them and us. And from I find it quite frustrating that people who are using grass are having a go at other people who are using grass. And instead of just going, you know what, they just have a different opinion, or they're doing it slightly differently, and I'm interested in what they're doing. I might not want to follow it, but I'm interested. A bit like the discussion we had earlier about it's nice to go and see a dairy farm, but I wouldn't want to milk cows. Yeah. It's about, you can actually learn from conversations. And I sometimes find it too much, oh my God, you use ryegrass, I can't possibly talk to you, which I don't think is a healthy place to be. And that doesn't mean that if I choose not to use ryegrass, crack on. But please don't be disrespectful to others who do. I think that's where my uneasiness comes.
But then, what's the difference between that and, you know, a full-on chemical farmer? You know, that plasters his farm with, or her farm with, chemicals. It's a sliding scale, isn't it? No.
But I also.
So if you're not doing.
But I think that then we are creating a monster that may not exist. We're almost scared of things that go bump in the night. So we do have to have an understanding. And I think we're more fortunate within the beef and sheep sector than if we go to probably the more extreme arable type sectors or the extreme dairy sectors. Yes. But I think when we don't see, the average nitrogen use on a beef and sheep farm is 50 kilos of N. Yeah. We're not high, it's not high users. Rarely do we use sprays. We might use some artificial fertilizers, and we might use some muck and slurry. Some of it is we're creating our own monsters to fight, and I'm not sure they're such a high proportion of the industry anymore.
Yeah. I just I suppose it's really, and this is, I think it's a very modern problem. I think if you see something on Twitter, so I've seen a couple of things on Twitter, and I've seen huge amounts of really positive stuff, Soil Farmer of the Year and things like that. And it's really like Jake Freestone and Alec Brewster and all these guys are doing incredibly positive things. But then it just takes one dick on Twitter to be like really condescending, or just say, oh yeah, I can't believe 90% of the farmers aren't doing this, that sort of thing. And you just go, oh, and that really ruins it. And maybe it's me, I've really looked at myself. Yeah. Sorry, Nick.
No, I think you're dead right. And I think this middle, the kind of, what do we call it, Liz? The cusp. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a bit more work on the cusp, because I think it's quite interesting.
And to define that is that it's this uncomfortable zone between the sort of people who are transitioning or thinking about moving into regenerative type approaches and the how bit, and also the people who are interested but that may not be applicable, or interested in looking at their ideas and how they could fit into their farm. So it's not at the extreme ends. It's in that.
That's so important, because as a former SAC advisor and pretending to be a consultant now, it makes me tight-chested, because it's really quite general, the regenerative thing. And if you don't have clarity, especially for guys that are starting out, I do see one or two new entrants who want to be regenerative, and that's great. It is, it's actually really refreshing. But I've spent money that I've wasted on regenerative, or doing something that would maybe be defined as agroecological or whatever you call it. Or regenerative.
You're creating your own words now.
Yeah, I know. I'm just self-certifying myself. But I spent money and I've wasted money. And this is really, it makes me tight-chested that these young guys are going to go in and half the potential stocking rate, and that's not going to generate cash. And and maybe spend stuff like my compost tea excursions were truly disastrous. I didn't spend much money on it, but bloody hell, there's so much that can go wrong. So it's the lack of knowledge. And the thing about, it's so complex. There's so much intertwined stuff that you've got to just do something, observe, and then take action. Oh my God. I need a brown paper bag to sort of get there again. That is so dangerous. I mean, I know myself. If I observe and I want the answer to be a certain thing, I'm going to actually put that down as a reason. That's why we need scientists to keep us in order. Anyway.
And there is that.
Stop ranting.
Well, there's a couple of people on the call, so there is that DEFRA funded project.
Being nasty?
No, I mean, sorry, I'm jumbling up my sentence. So DEFRA have just put a bid out and a project out within England to look at sort of mob grazing, rotational grazing type techniques with evidence gathered over the next 3 to 5 years. And because some of the challenges you mentioned earlier is a lot of the evidence is not generated in UK soils. So this is helping to plug some of those gaps, but it just takes time to collect that information.
Yeah. I see FEI are doing something at McDonald's as well.
Yeah. So, and I suppose part of it is to not, and I suppose this is, I'm not going to use it. Well, I am, but is it so the McDonald's element is a bandwagon? We could question mark, but is it that it's now becoming a part of marketing ability of some of those businesses as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think governments are well into it as well. I that kind of scares me a little, because it's all, look, I just think we need more information. I'm not. It's for me. It's fascinating. I have so much in common with it, but it's slightly scary. But maybe that's just me. I just find it.
Well, I think Jim
maybe running before walking.
Yeah, Jim Logan's put on the
Don't believe a word he says.
Oh well, no, he said you
It
can
fits.
take bits from both, and you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Those Gabe's principles, the 5 principles, make total sense. I'd still have got to get my head. I've still got to get on top of the diversity thing, although I'm trying. But I mean, they make total sense.
I'm just conscious of time. Liz, how are we going to finish at 9?
That's the plan, yeah.
Because we've got to talk past your pod.
Can I just quickly, sorry, because Godfrey, he's asked the first time and it went when I disappeared. And so I suppose it is a question, it's a deep fundamental question, which we know Michael likes, which is about, we're talking about red meat production off land. And actually, should we be moving, we're promoting animal-based agriculture, should we be moving towards plant-based agriculture?
You know, this is, you know, you just don't want to, you don't want to upset people, eh? But have you read Grazed and Confused, the FCRI report? I think I would recommend reading it, and it's really a meta-analysis. Oxford University, Aberdeen University, you know, some significant academic institutions did a meta-analysis on all the science that was available for grazed animals, and it's not. I mean, it is worrying. I think we have absolutely got to take it seriously, and I think, and it's you know, this is a report that George Monbiot quotes quite significantly and often. And when we say, oh well, grazed animals is different from feedlot animals, that will be true. I mean, there's gaps in that report in terms of soils, but I think we've got a major problem, and I don't think saying, well, they're talking mince is the answer. I think we've got to find a solution, and pronto. And I do see us having to, you know, I think in the race for survival, we're going to have to turn our backs on the industrial side of things if we have got any chance of survival. And we might not even, I don't want to get too depressing, but I mean, there's a real urgency to find solutions here, because there is definitely, I mean, I do think there is a genuine problem, and I'm really uncomfortable with people saying, well, they just don't understand the methane cycle. It's going to get, I mean, I'm going to get killed after this. There'll be a fat one on me. But they don't understand the methane cycle. We can sequestrate, and as Alan Savory said, you know, we can actually improve the you know, have a positive effect on emissions. I think that's an issue. I really do think it's an issue, and I think we've got to come up with solutions. And it might be in terms of, because we have control of the land, giving parts of that to maybe better solutions than animal agriculture.
I think
I just said that out loud.
But some of the challenges, so your Green Hill in Perthshire, I know this is a very black and white, but what else do you mean? You are producing a product off an area that, unless it was in trees, couldn't produce very much from a, it's not where you're going to be growing. No, I'm not, because that's flippant. I don't mean to be flippant, but I just think we also have to, there is a landscape role within it as well, isn't there? And land use comes in, and it isn't inherently a complex series of decisions.
Yeah, it's really complex, but I think we could have a lot more mosaic. You know, we've just planted another mile of hedgerows. I think that's a really good thing, because we're not going to dig them up and burn them. You know, that's that's capturing carbon for centuries, hopefully. And maybe some stuff. I'd like to see more work on rewilding. And so partly rewilding stuff. I don't know. I'm just winding Jim Logan up now just to try and get him mad. But I do think, come on, I mean, some of the bits of my farm that are grazed are absolutely useless, and I'm sure there's a better solution than grazing them for in terms of emissions. But
see,
and
this
if we're all short grass grazing, of course, we've got huge productivity in the rest of the area. So.
But this is good stuff, though, isn't it, Liz? This is why we need to do more on the cusp. It's good,
and we like using the word. But I think Jane was also very useful on the tree advice earlier. And her point she made, which is ruminants are the tools used to increase biodiversity above and below ground on pasture lands and low density woodlands. So it's part of them. It's the balance, isn't it? Which is our expectation to eat red meat every day, versus actually them being a tool in certain areas. It's not a yes, no, is it? It's a continuum, or a eat balanced, as AHDB would say.
Yeah, that sounded good. I don't know. I think we just got to be a bit more imaginative, maybe regenerative agriculture is the answer.
Steady on. You've changed your mind about 4 times.
No, I haven't. No.
Are we done on that bit?
Yeah, and other than Sheep Slave, who's also been quite active this evening.
Yeah, who is Sheep Slave? Who is it?
Well, they wish to remain anonymous.
It'll be one of your mates.
Are they being rude or?
No.
They agree with you in terms of thinking differently. So is there a Scottish equivalent of Manuka honey? Can't say it. So that can be grown in certain areas. So like a heather honey, is it known for its healing properties?
Michael's Manuka. I can see it now. Oh.
Yeah. Sheep Slave's thinking out the box. I would prefer if it was alcoholic.
You can make your own Michael's mead. No, I'm not. I'm laughing at myself. Michael's mead.
At your own jokes.
She's blushing, Michael.
I went euphemistically on that.
Oh, really?
I apologise. I've lowered the tone.
Well, that's not the first time.
Sadly not. Hopefully not the last. So yeah, I think there's we've stirred the pot in terms of questions or points that are coming up on that.
Okay.
In terms of which is good.
Yeah.
A point back, and we'll move on in a second. But is the talk of plant-based diets just a luxury for wealthy countries? It's a good question.
Yeah, I saw Daniel. That's from Daniel Wheeler. Just ignore him. No, probably. Yeah, I would. But I mean, that isn't it interesting? So the fact that we're probably, really efficient in terms of comparatively really efficient in terms of emissions, we're going to be the first to feel the brunt of it because of our customer base is so woke. So and I don't know. It's Daniel, as always, is right.
He's also pointed out we can't use the word Maluka because it's trademarked. So we'll have to come up with something else. Michael's mead. We've dealt with it.
Kiwi.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting distracted from the chat now. I apologise. So I think there's just a lot of interest in, as Nick said, on the cusp area, which I think we're planning to explore a bit more in the next few sessions from a carbon calling perspective. And we like to be in this uncomfortable zone, it appears. So yes, so in terms of, we got the last sort of 5 minutes really, and I know it seems like a bit of an abrupt end because we've just got into it, but I'm just conscious that obviously we have been going for an hour and a half. But it could be that we bring you back for a special. Now we've warmed up.
Please,
and we know it's
stop.
Not terrifying. Okay. but yeah, just in terms of what we tend to do now is just, so Nick and I need to think of mine, which is what is the thing you've taken most from this evening's talk or chat?
Well, aren't we, Liz? I'm just thinking, aren't we going to mention his podcast just
We've
quickly?
got 5 minutes. That's my only let's.
Okay, well, but my only, so for anyone who doesn't know Michael, he does an awesome podcast called The Pasture Pod. It is the kind of podcast, if you haven't listened to it, it's the kind of podcast you won't have heard one like it. He's a singer, he does lots of funny voices. He's got a dog. He puts himself in a car and records the theme tune, and then he interviews amazing people. So that is just, I'm just giving that a plug because it's just something, it's like a cult following, I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, some people.
Is that a polite way of saying that not many people
listen to the good people? So yeah. Sorry?
Is when people use it as a cult following, is it just to suggest that not many people listen? Or you've got loads of people listen?
Well, because I've had 40,000 downloads, and apparently because everyone has a podcast and doesn't really get very many downloads, I'm in the top 3% globally of all podcasts. So, but Will Evans was Rock and Full Farming is in the top 1%. So,
well, we think you should do more, and don't.
Yeah, well, look, I've been speaking to my sponsor, Pharmax, and they are up for. I think I hope I'm revealing things before we've agreed it, but I'm thinking they're up for it again. So that's really helpful, and I've actually got an interview on tape. So, and the person that's been interviewed is actually on the call, so this will be news to him. But I think we're going to get something going because I haven't released one for a year. So
there is a lot of demands for more podcasts, definitely.
Yeah, I'll do some on regenerative farming.
You can join us in the cusp. I think it's also what we're as I sort of mentioned, we're sort of having a bit of a thinking about what we would like carbon culling to be like in the next few months, years, whatever it turns into be. And in terms of what is your top tip for podcasters, not that we're podcasters really, but what would you be the top tips for me and Nick?
Well, I think you're much better than me, so I don't really have to give you any tips. But I think what's really important is that you don't try and be like anyone else. You have to be yourself, which is unfortunate for me because I'm a dick, and it comes across quite strange. But there's actual a liberty about that. Even if you get 2 downloads or whatever, your mum and your dad, be yourself. Absolutely express who you are, and someone might like it. So I think that, and don't kick tires, go to the heart of the issue. That's the other thing.
Be bold, be individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
If anyone hasn't listened to them, please do, because I'm telling you, I was driving back today crying.
You'd never told me that,
safe.
Nick. Why?
That's not safe.
Well, just because I was laughing at you singing away and the lyrics and Rye to Rye, what was it called? Your little Rye.
Yeah. Rye to Rye grass contact.
Just really special. And the only thing I would say is, as your kids get older, I'm not sure if you were my dad and I was quite a young kid, like a teenager, I'm not sure I'd be able to cope with it. But because you're not, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, good. And actually, the kids do. I mean, Kara's saying that our youngest sings the little interludes, but she will. That was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So she has no interest these days. But they do like. They have got. I mean, they've been exposed to my humor since they were born, so they do actually like the intros.
Oh, I love it. It's amazing.
So
Anyway, Liz.
Some of the few people that do.
Top 3% for worldwide downloads. This is
they fast forward. But anyway.
play on double time. So just top tip. No, not top. We've done top tip. So what is your key point you've taken from this evening, Nick?
My key point is, I think in the past we've, as Joseph says, the Irish chap, we have probably been a bit of an echo chamber. And I think tonight we've shown what's possible if we widen that chamber. And also, I'm so relieved that I can see him and I can hear him.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's nearly through. And it was me that had the issues. So that's nice.
And thank you, Michael. Oh, he's frozen.
No.
No, he does that. He does it. He's got us before.
Yes.
My take-home message is I really, really miss a group of people in a room just having a really random chat about all of these things. Just because in terms of the community and the group of people and everything that's on the chat and that we know, and that I just want to be back in a room full of people talking about such things with a pint.
Because if it's anything like the Sheep Breeders Round Table, we'd adjourn to the bar and you'd be up until 3 or 4 in the morning, wouldn't you, Liz?
I have heard that rumour, yes. But most importantly, back at the registration desk at 8 a.m. doing my job officially.
Yes, bossing people about.
Yeah. Dealing with the complaints that were noise that was probably me. So that's nice. On that professional note. But no, brilliant. Thank you very much, Michael.
No, it's a pleasure.
Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, because I haven't seen any of the comments that were slagging me off. So yeah, that was really helpful.
No, I think
people. Yeah, I hope people have enjoyed it. I do find myself, I find myself boring, so I don't know how other people do, but yeah, it's interesting. I think this regen thing is just, you can see it just getting, if it goes in one direction, it's going to be great. If it goes in another, there's going to be a lot of, just be careful. The proponents have to be careful. And, you know, in making change, you've got to take people with you and not just, just be careful not to slag other people off. It's got to be, make it all positive, eliminate the negative is what I would suggest if you're really passionate about getting the word spread. So
it comes back to be kind, which is appropriate for what we should do. I'm not always kind to my father when I'm in a rage, but I should be more kind. So
at least you know you should be kind. Yeah.
Anyway,
Liz, do you know what we haven't done? Just talked about carbon calling, the actual thing.
Oh yes. So we were planning to do it obviously was last August, and we were moving it to this June, to fit in with when Joel Salatin was over for Groundswell. That's just before, hopefully, the rules change on the 21st of June. So what we're thinking of, to give it a bit of time to settle and to make sure that we don't have to have another rule change, is to organise something in September. It won't be quite as big as what we'd originally planned, mainly because I don't want to deal with the logistics of getting lots of people into a big shed when we still don't quite know the position of COVID. But we are planning to do some carbon calling, an event at Tim's in September. And then the ambition is that the year after, then it will go back to what we'd planned to deliver in August. So that's a positive, definitely.
Brill. Well, yeah. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Liz.
No, thank you.
Feel exhausted.
It's been really nice. Yeah, I appreciate you.
We need to find out who Sheep Slave is. He seems, I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she.
Yeah.
Anyway,
oh,
we're now.
It's me. I'm thinking Charlie Walker.
I think he or she is enjoying it.
I know. A bit like a mole.
Anyway, this is
anyway.
right. Yes.
Right,
so
everybody,
hopefully,
thank you all.
we'll be back with a call probably May time. I'm lambing in March and Nick's lambing in April, so we're just going to take a bit of more time off. But we'll be back with force in May.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks a lot. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
It's just us two.
Bye.